Well, hello, fancy seeing you here. I am sat outside BMW Cotswold Motorrad, as you can see, and if I put the side stand back down and take a little look at what I'm riding, you can see it too. And we are going to be riding the BMW R1300R. Oh yes, been waiting a while to ride this. If you're not a follower of the channel, you might not know that I owned the R1300R for over 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. Had a very enjoyable, I think 12,000 miles on it from new until I crashed it and wrote it off. But generally I was very positive about that bike, really enjoyed it, although it was sad times when I crashed the bike. I did take that as an opportunity to change direction, and I ended up on an S1000 XR. But there's many positive attributes for the 1250 that I still miss. I've always wanted to know whether this new 1300 engine has the same kind of jaw-dropping acceleration from low revs. So I'm in third gear here, road mode on the instruments. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of space in the next lane. Oh, actually, alright, I might do this now. Do a bit of accelerating. Yeah, it's still there. Not only that, I think I felt it pull harder than the 1250 did, and that's not a surprise. It's a bigger engine, newer generation, but it kind of climbed harder as it started to pull. Shall we do that again? Third gear, road mode this is. I'll try dynamic a little later on. Oh, I don't believe it. I want to buy one already. This is not good. At the rev counter, there's a white section in the rev band from 4 to 8,500 RPM. And that's essentially where BMW suggests you should be using the engine. Yeah, and certainly there in a fourth or third gear from 4,000 RPM, that was some manic acceleration, but smooth. So the format for this little ride, a lot of people have already reviewed this motorbike, so there's probably nothing I can say from a subjective point of view that you don't already know if you're interested in this model. The way I'm coming at it is what's this bike like in comparison to the 1250 I used to own. Now you probably know all about the ergonomic changes to the 1300, and indeed compared to the 1250 the bike feels more compact. The handlebars feel closer to me and lower than the 1250. Certainly feels like it's aimed at a younger generation. Again, nothing that you don't already know if you've been paying attention to this bike. Just going to bang on the old adaptive cruise that this model comes with. I guess on the SE model adaptive cruise is still an optional extra. We'll test it out in front of this BMW here. We'll pull in. We're gaining on this car. Oh, I can feel it slowing me down already. This is very nice. So I got 72 set on cruise, but the adaptive is slowing me down to the speed of the car in front. I'm at 2,000 RPM. It's not going to change gear for me. Will it let me change down a gear and keep cruise activated? That's an important thing to know. Yes, it did. My R1250 couldn't do that. Every time I could go up a gear and it will keep cruise activated, but whenever I went down a gear it disabled cruise control. So that's a nice improvement. So yes, as I mentioned, I think comparisons to the 1250, that's what this ride is about, essentially. And would I buy another one? Well, I think I already know the answer to that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The question I have to ask myself is, am I ready for another naked bike? I suspect the answer is no. I do like a fairing, I've got to admit. There is always the R1300RS, but that's something like 243 kilograms, I think. So that's even heavier than this one. And towards the end of my ownership with the 1250, the weight of the bike was something that was starting to weigh on me. Haha. Pushing the bike around dead weight with the engine not running. But what is nice about these Boxer Twins is the weight it carries low. And so it's easy to pick up off the stand. You know, it's not heavy to get it upright, it's just heavy to start moving the thing. And indeed, when you start pushing the bike, you can feel there's a lot of weight pushing that front wheel into the ground. If you're just pushing the bike around, the steering feels very heavy. But when you're riding, yes, it feels dense, does feel solid, definitely. You are riding a bike with quite a bit of weight. It doesn't feel as heavy as the stats would suggest. Same with the 1250, basically. Wow, you are taking your time. This is a different machine to the 1250. It is ready to accelerate really hard at a moment's notice. I've only ridden one KTM kind of 1290 era motorbike like that one. The acceleration on that bike was massive. This feels a lot like that, but without the engine vibration. I do understand that the 1390 Super Duke is a smoother engine now. I haven't ridden one, so I can't comment really. But this accelerates like a psycho. But it does it in a very calm manner. Calm like a bomb. Anyway, shall we accelerate out of this little village? The weight has its advantages. Feels very stable. Second to third. The 1250 that I owned was not interested in trying to lift the front end on level ground. This one is. Wow, stable. I haven't even checked the suspension settings. I presume that because I'm in dynamic mode, it's changed the suspension damping to dynamic as well. The tyres you would get through, oh, the tyres I would get through, that wouldn't be fun. From that point of view, it might be an expensive bike to own. But the fun you would have could outweigh that. Oh yeah, I was going to check the suspension. There is very little wallow going on the suspension. So where are we? Damping. I'm in dynamic. Yeah, kind of thought so. If I put my riding mode back into road, I think I felt it immediately. If I check the suspension, yeah, to put the damping into road as well. Now on my 1250, I had road and dynamic damping, but I also had, oh, I can't remember the terminology now, min, auto and high preload, so I could adjust the preload separately to the damping. And that bike did have a bit of wallow. The suspension wasn't really set up for very sporty riding, as you can imagine, so I ended up using high preload and road damping, and that was my kind of preferred combination. I don't think we can adjust preload anymore. So what you got now, if I look down a little bit to the switch gear, I'm looking at where I'm going, by the way. You have an up and down rocker switch and like a function select button here. So if I press that and look at the dash, they're the things that switch could control on the fly while you're riding. At the moment it's set to damping. So you've got traction control, potentially, seat and grip heating, and the adjustment for adaptive cruise control that this bike has got. Just those 4 options. Now, as I understand it, I haven't seen the sport model controls in person, but I imagine what happens is if I switch to DTC on this bike, on the sport version, on the performance version, sorry, the up and down switch will let you cycle through I think maybe 14 levels of traction control, -7 to +7, and that would be very interesting to me. Especially if I were to take one of these on the track. Yeah, can't quite get my head around the difference in performance between this engine and the 1250 before it. Chad did tell you, if you follow Chad on his various freelance outings through the motorcycle media where he's ridden this bike, he told you it was different, and it is truly. Doesn't feel like it's from the same manufacturer, and there was nothing much wrong with the 1250 engine, I can tell you. All the other usual creature comforts from BMW are there. We got the SOS button, we got the cruise control with this model is adaptive, we have the rider modes, you have 5 available I think to choose from, and you only have 4 to choose from on the dash at any one time from a total of 5. I think it's Eco, Rain, Road, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. Now Dynamic Pro, that mode has finally caught up with my S1000 single R from 2019 that I used to own. What do I mean? Well, on the 1250, Dynamic Pro basically gave you the same performance and capability as Dynamic in terms of throttle response and wheelie control. If you had traction on, which you know you typically would have, wheelie control is baked into that. And even if you're in Dynamic Pro mode on the R1250, as long as you had traction on, you had some measure of wheelie control on as well. Now on this bike, it hasn't got multi-level wheelie control like other modern sports bikes, but it has got a 4th Dynamic Pro DTC setting essentially, which keeps the traction control on but disables wheelie control completely. I mean, you would be asking for trouble because this bike seems to be very keen to wheelie, especially the first couple of gears. I'm pleased to report that although it is a naked bike, the wind pressure is actually quite agreeable. No turbulence, just a bit noisy, and not an awful lot of pressure facing you. You're leaning into the wind now more than you used to on the 1250. Here we are at 1 miles per hour. Very well balanced here. Clutch engagement is nice. Nice to see that they've still got a hydraulic clutch. It's not the lightest clutch, but I've ridden modern bikes with heavier clutches. The gear change I'm having a little bit of a fight with. It's very mechanical, not crunchy, but there's a most definite click when you are changing gears. But I'm finding the gear change lever itself to be a bit short. I feel that I've got my foot facing forward on the peg, but the lever is barely touching the inside right side of my boot. So I've got to turn my foot in to kind of change gear confidently. I'm missing a few gear changes. So the bike's not doing missed gears. I'm kind of missing the gears because I'm missing that initial first kick with the foot. Do we have that additional preload option on a front suspension?
Hi folks, I just had to jump in here so you didn't hear me talk nonsense about the new optional dynamic suspension adjustment feature. It doesn't affect preload, but what it does do is effectively adjust the spring rate of the fork by routing damping oil through the bottom of the fork so pressure is applied to it from both ends. This can help with sportier riding or a more heavily loaded bike. Now, back to your scheduled programming.
But even in road mode that I'm in now, the suspension is massively impressive, really good. The damping is fantastic. This suspension, I'm in road mode I believe, is some of the best motorcycle suspension I think I've ever experienced. It's uncanny how this is soaking up the road. Very impressive stuff. If you like good suspension, then I'd recommend you give this or the 1300 RS a spin. So I'm riding in a slight state of shock now if I think about how this bike accelerates. Haven't had a real chance to tell you how it stops, but it's got linked brakes, so which is probably good on a bike this heavy, with this much low slung mass pushing the front end forward. A little bit of rear retardation probably won't go amiss. So basically I want the suspension and I want the engine. It's kind of only one thing for it. Gonna have to get the bike, but hold on, it's not as easy as that, because I probably would have to get the RS for wind protection, and then the weight gets a bit more crazy, and I kind of had enough of the weight with the 1250. Awkward. So here we are, the R1250. Here we are. So here we are, the R1300R. Now, I, as I said, own the 1250, and if you look at the wheelbase, yes, you can still see this is kind of like a large motorcycle, quite a long wheelbase on it. But they've done a good job in trying to make the bodywork more compact. Certainly does look like a smaller motorbike now compared to the 1250 that I owned. In terms of the styling, yes, it's up to date. I can't really complain. In the pictures, I wasn't a big fan of this big swathe of plastic, especially in some colours. But in person, again, you're looking at it on the screen, so you can't tell, and you might just not agree with me. But in person, yeah, that bit of plastic doesn't stick out or stand out as much as it did in the pictures for me. So overall, I'm happy with the styling until we get to the front. Oh dear. I know we have radar here, so there's not much you can do about it, but this headlight, oh, I just want it to be bigger. I'm not going to be riding at night, so I can't tell you how effective the headlight is, but it's got to be better than the 1250. The halogen unit I had on my 1250 from about 2021, that bike, yeah, was not very good at all. So I'm hoping for at least reasonable performance from the new headlight, all LED. Huge discs. Can we get to see? Ah, lovely. Look at that. They are Brembos, as you can see. BMW branded on the outside. 47mm forks, I think. Huge upside down forks. The exhaust looks sexy, but I do believe that is an optional extra, this dark chrome effect. I also wasn't a fan in the pictures of the exhaust. This kind of twin chamber silencer. But at least it's small. Definitely compared to the chrome cannon that my 1250 used to run around with. That was huge. But what that means is if you ever decat this bike, it's going to be massively loud, probably through this silencer. I imagine there's not much silencing going on in here. Can we see anything? If I look up close, can't see much. Yeah, I imagine a lot of the silencing is done under the bike. And if the bike gets decatted and a new exhaust goes on, I imagine you'll have some trouble keeping this bike quiet. Ah, split radiators now. My 1250 had a radiator going all the way across the front. That's a new design there. Certainly still worth getting guards for the radiators. They do look somewhat exposed from the front. Yeah, you can imagine a stone having pretty easy access to those radiators. What are we wearing? T32 Bridgestones, 2070 ZR17, as is typical. I think there's a 190 on the back now. 190. Oh, yeah, 190 55 ZR17 T32. You know what? Maybe this sports touring tyre might hold up a little bit better to the immense torque this bike has compared to a sporting tyre. Having said that, I do feel like it's squaring off a bit already. What sort of miles have we got on this bike? Got to turn it on here. Make sure the keys are within reach. It's keyless ride. Mileage. How do I find out quickly? Let's look at the top of the screen. Oh, that's it, I think. 1,500 miles. You can feel the squaring. And the wear bars. Yeah, actually, still a good distance away. Imagine you can double that if you're not too heavy on the throttle. Double that, if not more. Here's the cause of much joy for some motorcyclists. Shaft drive, no chain to worry about, no adjustment, just a replacement after 35,000 miles approximately. Twin piston rear caliper, Brembo again, I presume. Oh yes, Brembo front and back, mate. No centre stand on this bike. That's also an optional extra. Oh, one thing I failed to notice, there's a USB-C socket down there, poking out sideways, and a waterproof cap. Nice to have up there. What it feels a bit like a KTM Super Duke for people who don't like the styling of the KTM Super Duke. It's kind of like a slightly sanitized KTM 1390 Roadster. The compromise is the kind of the added weight compared to a lot of the KTM models. But don't be fooled into thinking this can't boogie. Perhaps those people put off with KTM's recent commercial history, but still want a bike with a huge amount of torque and a good amount of horsepower. 140 plus is not to be sniffed at, then this is making a compelling case for itself. Shame that on the dash we still only get turn-by-turn navigation. We don't get a map like we do in a lot of modern bikes nowadays. Oh, what a surprise, BMW sells a separate device. Connected Ride Navigator, I think it's called. And the connector for that is right there. But hopefully in the next generation of this display they will get with the times. Oh, another thing, the Sport Dash. On this SE model there's only one display. I understand that on the performance model there's two extra dash displays, basically with lap timers, similar to my S1000 XR. So it may be that that's something that could be forced to appear on this model if you've got the right equipment. Cough cough, GS911 Hex Innovate, cough cough. What an engineering achievement this thing is. Right, how slow can we go in first gear? Would it come down to 5 miles an hour? We're at 6 in tick over. Nah, 6 is about what you get, I think. But here, because of all that low down weight, it is nicely balanced, and the front wheel doesn't feel too heavy even at 2 or 3 miles an hour. It's just at the standstill you're like, wow, there's some weight on that front tire there. As soon as you start moving, sensation lightens up nicely. I'm just wondering if I could tolerate a taller seat on this bike. The leg position or the leg angle isn't overly tight, but at this slow speed I'm feeling that my knees are I've got a good bend in them. When I put up outside the bike shop, BMW Motorrad Cotswold, see if I can get a picture side on of me on the bike. Yeah, I think a higher seat will kind of put you into a sportier riding position onto the handlebars for a bit more attack while you're riding. Nothing wrong with that if you like it. And you still, even if this seat was a good 10 millimeters higher, if your legs aren't too short, and I've got 32-inch inside leg, if they're not overly short, then I think you still have no trouble getting at least 1 foot on the ground. As it is, I'll just pull up and stop here and look down. My feet are completely flat, both sides, with a bit of a bend in the knee. I'll take a bit more time actually. So yeah, fully flat on the ground. So certainly a taller seat would be an option for many people if they want it. If I can be drawn to a boxer twin again, and at this point I can be, I think I'll need another ride on the GS and take the RS out for a spin. For those bikes, for me, it'll all be down to wind management, wind noise and turbulence. From this first ride, I am basically in awe of the performance of this package. If you've been looking for a head-banging super naked, I'm sure this has never been on your shopping list, or there's a good chance this has not been on your shopping list. And where this delivers in the kind of lower mid-range torque area, I don't think there's many bikes out there that can compete. What a prick. In summary, wow, I want this engine and I want the suspension or the suspension quality. It's just immense. This is in road mode. This is where I think it is very nicely soaking up the bumps in the road. Dynamic does firm things up a little bit, a little less comfortable. But road mode on my 1250, kind of road damping and automatic preload, that often gave you a bouncy, floaty ride. It wasn't very well controlled when you got on the throttle, especially if the road was undulating. this is much better controlled than that.